A former Freeport police officer is cleared on charges of shooting a man, leaving him seriously injured. Life was good for Matthew McInnis. In December 2015, he had just joined the Freeport police force. Things changed on January 30th, 2016 at 4 a.m. in the morning. While the 25-year-old was sleeping in his bed, he reached to shut off an alarm in his apartment, but instead picked up his gun, accidentally firing it into his neighbor's apartment. The bullet hit Reggie Rossow, leaving him seriously injured. McInnis was charged with deadly conduct, saying he was reckless while firing his gun through a wall. Luckily, his neighbor survived. McInnis went on trial last week, and he joins us now with the verdict. Well, first of all, his attorney is Charles Big Angry Adams. What happened with that verdict? That verdict came in Monday or Tuesday?
It came in Tuesday. The trial was about a week and a half. It was very quick, about a 45-minute not guilty. I think the issue was that he was mischarged. This was a horrifying accident. I do believe that he was charged because of this new media narrative that was kind of injected from Austin on this being the incident of a white officer and an African-American man. Matthew had just moved into the apartment the day before. He had no idea who was on the other side. But a key point is he didn't pick the gun up. The gun actually shot flat from a flat plane, and he just reached over and hit it when he was still sleeping. How they ever thought that they would establish deadly conduct is beyond me, but we did have to take it to trial to exonerate him.
Let's get Matthew involved in this. When you heard the narrative that prosecutors had, saying that here's a white police officer shot another black man in America, you thought what when you heard that?
I honestly couldn't believe it. I mean, I come from a very racially mixed family, so racism is something I've never really understood. And it just kind of blew my mind that they really believe that someone would choose to do that.
Now, show us an example of how you were reaching, because many people are, well, I'm confused. I'm not going to say many people. I'm confused on how you can reach for a gun. You're reaching for the alarm, trying to shut the alarm off, and you get a gun and you shoot through the wall. So how did that work?
Well, truthfully, I mean, I never really knew what happened. It's just what I put together from the details and the evidence that was there. I was woken up by the discharge, and when I looked at my alarm clock, it said 4:03. And I always set my alarm for 4. So it's the only thing that made sense for me. Somewhere in an unconscious state, I maybe reached out and obviously made contact with the trigger, and the gun discharged.
When you realized that someone was hit by that bullet, that you mistakenly pulled the trigger on, your thoughts on that?
I just had to do what was necessary to help them at that point.
But I mean, you had to be horrified that here you are, a police officer trained on how to use your gun, trained on how to protect people, and through a mistake, you've injured someone.
Right. That feeling, along with being half awake and just realizing what happened and trying to put the story all together, happening all at the same time, was extremely overwhelming. It's a wicked feeling.
Now, you resigned from the force. This is something that you wanted. You wanted to be a police officer.
Yes,
you resigned from the force. What happens to you now?
Now, reflect, spend time with my family, pray, and try to rebuild.
Charles, when you look at this case and you see that prosecutors, according to you, created this narrative that here's a white cop trying to shoot a black cop, how egregious is that?
Well, actually, I think it was the Austin media and the Austin American Statesman that created that narrative. Although the prosecutor did mention the fact that we weren't, in his opening statement, we weren't going to let a police officer get away with this. I don't think it was more race.
Just waking up.
It had nothing to do. And I think this overarching argument in America now that white officers are seeking to target and kill black African-American men, you know, it went so far that it led to him being charged. I do think Brazoria County is the finest district attorney's office in the state. Jerry Yenny is a wonderful elected district attorney.
But I mean, if you would have looked at the facts, Charles, you wouldn't have pursued a grand jury indictment with this. You would have said, okay, this is an accident, let's move on.
Well, it wasn't even that. I mean, we were talking, they flew in a doctor from Arkansas. There was no doubt that he was injured. Why did we have to fly? They had a scientist from Austin. They had a Secret Service agent. They had officers from many agencies. They threw everything in the kitchen sink trying to get this conviction. And I think it was because this narrative in America, I think he had to be charged because of this narrative in America. And we need to get back to a point where we don't put everything in the prism of liberalism, when we don't put everything and look at everything through this certain context. And that's what happened. Even the articles that were written on this case were about a white officer shooting an African-American man. And this was a neighbor accidentally discharging a gun. That's it.
Thank you, guys. Wish you luck in your future. We want to thank you for coming on The Factor.